A Jewish charity that monitors anti-Semitism has said that it's received a record number of reports in the first 6 months of this year. The Community Security Trust recorded an almost 50% increase in incidents between January and June this year. So, talking about this with me now, we've got Gideon Falter, who's the Chief Exec of the Campaign Against Anti-Semitism. Good evening to you. Gideon, what's behind this rise, do you think?
We've been seeing rises in anti-Semitic hate crime since 2014, which was a record-breaking year. Every year since then, despite repeated promises, we've seen records broken again and again. This latest set of figures shows that anti-Semitic hate crime rose by 49%. Incidents rose, as recorded by the Community Security Trust, by 49% in the first half of this year. And when it comes to what's behind it, we're seeing a couple of very worrying things. We're seeing the mobilization of anti-Semites on our streets, of people who hate Jews on our streets, including, I should add, people who seem to be supporters of the Hamas terrorist organization, which is no fan of Britain as well as Jews. And we're also just seeing anti-Semitism running rampant on social media, with social networks absolutely refusing to shoulder the responsibility and deal with this.
Yeah, and I mean, I, for one, I remember seeing footage, very, very disturbing footage, quite recently, actually, of a convoy of cars going through London, and many of you will have seen that footage for yourselves. And I just found it so, well, it's disgraceful that in this day and age, people would think and have the confidence to be so brazen as to take to the streets in this way with megaphones, shouting horrific anti-Semitic abuse. So I wonder, Gideon, do you think the police are doing enough and taking this as seriously as they ought to be?
I think brazen is exactly the word. And I think the reason that people are brazen is because they don't really face real prospects of prosecution. It's very unlikely, if you commit an anti-Semitic crime at the moment, that you'll actually get prosecuted for it. And the reason for that sometimes lies with the police. But really, the main culprit here is the Crown Prosecution Service, which prosecutes about 15,000 hate crimes every year, but only a couple of dozen hate crimes relating to Jews. And the reason for that absolutely escapes me. I don't know how they explain their poor performance, but it means that anti-Semites know, people who hate Jews know, that they can get away with crime often, and this needs to result in an absolutely concerted crackdown throughout the country in order for anti-Semites to clearly get the message.
Yeah, because I think that there's an awful lots of focus, and of course, rightly so, on racism at the moment in this country, but it seems to be focused around causes such as BLM and all of that kind of side of racism. And actually, you know, this is happening across the board. You know, we've even seen, for example, the Labour Party, nonetheless, have been in trouble for anti-Semitic situations. So if you've got things like this coming from the top, how do you tackle this? I mean, you're saying that you want the police to essentially do more and prosecute more. And what would that look like to you? And also, what do you think that the social media companies are doing? Do you think they're doing enough and taking it as seriously as they ought to be?
So those are great questions, and there are a couple of things that we would like to see happen very urgently. In addition to a number of measures that we've recommended to the Home Office on policing, there's something which is a quick fix, which is that when we left the EU had actually banned the whole of Hamas as a terrorist organisation. And when after Brexit, we reverted to Britain's own system for banning terrorist organisations, but only half of Hamas is actually banned by Britain. And obviously a half ban on a terrorist organisation is not a ban at all. And what we saw over the last couple of months particularly is supporters of Hamas coming out and brazenly flaunting symbols of that organisation. Hamas's own charter says that the final hour will not come until the Muslims kill the Jews, and it says that this is something that Jews need to be slaughtered wherever they can be found. So one thing we'd like to see is for the Home Secretary to ban Hamas in its entirety, and we're writing to all MPs tomorrow to ask them to back that call. The second thing that we are really urgently in need of is action by the social networks. And you may have seen actually a report that we put out the last few days, which showed that we've actually, after the Wiley incident, you'll remember that rap star Wiley, who went on a tirade on social media, even calling for Jews to be shot, and the social networks initially refused to take down his accounts. After that, Twitter approached us and said, we'd like you to be a partner with us. And when we started reporting tweets to them en masse through their partner reporting system, we started finding massive inconsistencies. They're letting through tweets saying things like Hitler was right, he should have finished off the Jews, and Twitter is coming back to us saying that this is not anti-Semitic. And we actually found about 60% of what we reported was rejected by Twitter as not anti-Semitic. And so we really need to see now that all of the social networks come under regulation by the UK government, because it's been years now that we and many others have been calling on them to police themselves, and they've abjectly failed to do so. And it's radicalizing our young people, and it's causing a lot of hate in our country.
Goodness me. Wow. Okay. Well, thank you very much, Gideon, for sharing your experience and your suggestions there. Hope to speak to you again soon. Now